Which high school friend took a path you didn't expect? I knew a girl in high school who was very sweet but very shy. She had very poor eyesight, had some tough dental issues, was overweight, and lived with a foster family in a trailer park. She wasn't particularly close with anyone in school. I got the sense that she was just trying to make it through, head down, get it done. But she was always kind, and I would talk with her a bit here and there. Mostly she kept to herself, and seemed to want to just not be noticed at all. After high school, we lost touch. 20 years later, I get a Facebook request from someone with her name, but the picture looks nothing like her, not even a vague resemblance. I accept because I'm curious. Well, it was indeed her. It turns out that she worked her way through, paid for community college, ended up getting a good job with the family company, and worked her way up the ranks there. She saved all of her money. By her late 20s, she saved enough money and had good insurance for eye surgery and dental surgery. She also started really focusing on getting healthy. She said it all boosted her confidence so much that she started traveling around the country. During those travels, she ended up meeting a great guy. She and her husband have a nice family, good jobs, and live in an affluent community. She acknowledged that her early years were tough, and she had such low self-esteem that she had a tough time making friends. She thanked me for always being kind to her. She ended with, "I may have blossomed late, but it was worth the wait. I'm so happy for her. We keep in touch." The son of my teacher was a football player, had a beautiful GF. They broke up before he graduated though, and was a procrastinator. Once he graduated, he went to work at a restaurant for a year, and as far as I knew, he was going to attend college the next year, but he had no idea of what his major was gonna be. I just found out 2 weeks ago he got accepted to a local seminary and is going to become a priest. I was shocked to say the least. A really nice and shy guy who liked Queen and played guitar a bit. Became a bass guitarist in #1 rock band in Ukraine. Edit. It's Soki and LZ. He's not in the band anymore, but has been playing for first 10 years. Probably the smartest guy in class, but never actually paid attention or did his homework. Was always sleeping in class or doing his own thing or goofing off. Recently sold his startup for 8 figures and is now back to goofing off. He was 2 years younger than me, absolutely brilliant, and went to Stanford after high school. Died in his sleep from a heart attack at age 20 while visiting family in China. He had an undiagnosed heart defect. So yeah, that was pretty unexpected. R.I.P. Kevin. Best friend in high school. His stepdad was a district attorney and apparently they didn't get along at all. This was the Bible Belt Southeast. I met him in the 10th grade as I smoked weed, and he happened to sell it. He lived in a trailer park and financed it with his weed sales. My parents hated him. After he graduated from high school, while living 100% on his own, he did 2 years of college before getting accepted in a major medical university program that actually paid him to be there. He is now a pharmaceutical engineer living in Switzerland. My parents were surprised to hear that. Guy who sat behind me in hometown. Was a good student, but not an intellectual superstar by any means. After I relocated to Eastern PA, turns out he was in Western NJ. Multi-millionaire, former CEO of a pharmaceutical company. Great guy, super happy for him, but truly unexpected. Not me, but my cousin in the UK, went to school with Dev Patel. Dev was apparently super into the drama club, and people thought he was too over the top and kind of a tryhard that would never actually be a professional actor. His success was definitely unexpected for people he knew back then, based on what my cousin said. Not HS, but my best friend's freshman roommate was a weird guy. Brilliant. Literally 1600 SAT scores, full ride, brilliant, but never really showered. He was dating the sweetest, kindest girl, who dumped him after 2 months of trying to get him to take better care of himself and actually go out and do anything. We'd try to get him to come out of his shell because he was pretty funny and we liked the guy. After not hearing from him for 15 years, we looked him up. Apparently he co-founded Revolve Clothing, is a multi-millionaire, and parties an Ibiza and sheet. I'm genuinely happy for the guy, but I never ever expected him to hit it big in fashion. high school meth dealer and local lunchroom pot cigarette vendor ended up being roommates senior year. 2 months after graduation they both joined the Las Vegas PD. One dude who was always a dick to me, but hung out with our friend group got expelled in high school for having legit children on his phone. He moved cities and I didn't hear from him for years. Turns out he murdered an elderly gay man and is in jail now. One super shy quiet dude is now doing time for blackmailing girls and posting their nudes. Dude was the typical cocky douche to most people, but we got along well enough. We are 25 now, and he moved to Vegas, went bald, put on about 100 pounds, and is dating a 60-year-old stripper. Not really a friend as I didn't run with their crowd, but like at every school there was the really popular girl. Pretty, cheerleader, everybody liked her, wealthy parents, etc. I'm sure you knew someone like that yourself. Just maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago she got arrested and charged with several felonies for possession of meth, prescription painkillers, and a large amount of weed. I moved away from that town years ago and haven't really kept in touch with a lot of the people from there. However, a buddy of mine sent me a picture of the report in the newspaper and was like, remember her? Definitely didn't expect it, that's for sure. Average guy at school. Dead through alcoholism by his mid-20s. It was apparently asphyxiation that got him. There were 2 that really stand out. One of them was a girl who got in a fair amount of trouble. She skipped school, had a bad attitude, and was more interested in hanging out with friends than learning. She ended up becoming a lawyer and eventually became the assistant DA of a city with about 3 million people. The other was a nice guy, got along with most everyone. I even considered him a friend and hung out with him on occasion. He came from a great family, and while he didn't get the best grades, he was good at things like fixing cars, so I assumed he would end up going into that field. Instead, he started a career in drinking. By the time he was 30 he had been in jail several times, in a rehab a couple of times, had been arrested numerous times, had 2 restraining orders on him from former girlfriends, and had burned so many bridges with his family they had given up on him. Now in his mid-40s, he still lives in that same town. He looks like he is in his 60s, is on disability, and likely doesn't have much of a future as he continues to drink himself away. My best friend, since I was 5 years old, smartest person I ever knew. She went off to college and got into heroin. She is now serving a life sentence for first-degree murder. I had a crush on a girl that was a real sweet, quiet girl. Not long ago saw her picture on the news for boosting cars. She was not so cute anymore. A girl I knew was a strict Christian and floated between groups of friends. Her judgmental side came out from time to time. Once I remember her telling a girl she was going to burn in the depths of hell for having sex. I only know this because I was the lucky girl sitting between them when the other girl jumped over me to punch her. Anyway, after high school, I heard she met a guy, stopped being a Christian, and wrote all sorts of oversharing sexual statuses on Facebook. They got engaged and were hooked on drugs. She pawned her engagement ring for drugs and lived above a smoke shop out east. Good news. She's now off drugs, married and has a daughter. Still posts over sexualized photos and statuses on Facebook. We are good on seeing you in lingerie suggestively laying on your husband. Not a friend, but I went to middle and high school with a girl who went into acting, became a Power Ranger. I had a friend in high school who was high achieving academically. He was in the top classes, very nervous and well behaved in the classroom. Generally he was mostly thought of as quiet and the guy very few people paid any attention to. He's serving 8 years in prison for possession of drugs and child pornography. A friend of mine is a talented artist with a deep passion for video game design. He worked on projects for indie devs all through high school, and I thought it was certain he would quickly become an artist for some dev studio soon after. He now works as a furniture salesman. I homeschool, so I guess I didn't see my brother going down the path of hip hop edit. He hasn't uploaded any hip hop tracks to YouTube, but here's a piano piece he wrote. YouTube. Watch. V equals SSTFDDDBKGA. The quiet, kinda nerdy guy in the back of my app calculus class is now the CEO of Playboy Thailand. Had a friend That was the weirdest guy I'd met. He'd often yell random stuff for no reason, do every kind of accent, and was just generally awkward around people. Saw him a few years after, and he was dressed to the nines, very clean cut, and socially well adjusted. Complete 180 from high school. Made me rethink all my life's choices up until that point, since I was not doing so hot in life. Edit. I'm loving all the people wondering if I'm talking about them, or someone they know. I can tell you how this transition can happen, as I was sort of that kid. More of a computer nerd, but I wore t-shirts with witty, stupid sayings on them, or computer company logos. Did this all through college, wondering why few girls were interested in me. Graduated, got a job, moved away. Decided I'd distinguish myself a bit by being the guy who wore Hawaiian shirts all the time. Started learning some manners and social graces. Decided Hawaiian all the time was overkill. Started wearing short sleeve button downs with funky patterns. Met my future wife. Started dating. Going on dates, decided short sleeve shirts were too informal. Drifted toward long sleeve. Over time we got involved with art deco groups and vintage clothing. She really got into it. I have to keep up if we are going out. Started wearing nice jackets and eventually full suits. Now my closet is full of vintage suits, and I've started drifting back to more interesting but stylish jackets if I'm not wearing suits. My 18-year-old self would have no idea what to think of this. Elizabeth, the badass party chick. She was the brilliant and quietly rebellious type. She was pulling and getting away with shit that most of the guys branded as troublemakers in school could only dream of, because she had the sense and savvy to not show off to the world. She wasn't doing shit for the attention. She was just doing it because that's what she wanted to do. So smoking, heavy drinking, some drugs, staying out all night, whatever. She could outdo anyone else. Anyway, a little over 10 years later I caught up with her and found out she was a triathlete and overall health nut. The most brilliant girl I knew, second in our graduating high school, was also one of the most lively and outgoing people I knew. She could befriend anyone. She was so fun and energetic and thoroughly enjoyed living life. I thought she was destined for so much success. She ended up passing away last year, just a couple months shy of her 24th birthday after a lengthy, private battle with cancer. When I found out about her illness, it was already terminal, and when she passed away all I could think was how unfair it was that someone with so much potential, someone who did everything right in life, could die like that. Her death really got to me, and as the 1-year anniversary is approaching, I constantly remind myself to make the most of every second of my life, because hers was cut so short. This one kid I went to middle school with FR looked like the next school shooter, wore the trench coat, fedora, occasionally a fashionable tail. He was a big guy, nerdy looking. But then somewhere between 8th grade and freshman year, he got rid of his braces, lost about 200 pounds, and was the most attractive and popular kid in school. TBH, wish I had that motivation. When I was 10 I sat next to the sweetest boy in our class. All the other boys I had sat next to in junior school were mild asshats. I remember I lent him my Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory VHS, and he lent me the Muppets Take Manhattan. We went to different high schools when we were 12. I heard that at 16 he had been arrested for armed robbery. I still can't believe it. What the hell happened to that kind and gentle boy between 12 and 16? Our high school had a good mix of preppy kids and kids from, to put it lightly, rough histories. One thing I really admire about my school, in retrospect, never thought about it at the time, was how little we let socioeconomic status affect our interactions. I've mentioned it before, but of my core friend group of 6 guys, 3 have been to prison, 2 are still there. One's a doctor, one's an engineer, one's was an ambassador's aide, but is currently a consular, running a consulate. He, along with one of the guys in prison, did not end up where I expected. The guy who ended up in prison was always a bit of a jackass. He wasn't a dumb guy, but he did a lot of dumb things. So I guess it shouldn't surprise me. But still, he came from a well-to-do family, did well in school, just had a propensity for acting out. Anyway, he dropped out of college, was working in a grocery store. There was a domestic dispute with his girlfriend. I had never known him to be the type to hit a woman, but he was a fighter, so I don't totally doubt it, even though he swears he never laid a hand on her. But yeah, had plenty of opportunity for a good life. Beat his girlfriend. Is currently in prison. The other guy, I couldn't be more proud of. His dad was a gangbanger who spent most of his time in prison. When we were juniors in high school, his father was shot in a drive-by and nearly died. The shooting crippled his dad, who to this day is in a wheelchair. His mother didn't speak English and only held down a menial maid job. Not something to support 3 kids. Unsurprisingly, he didn't like his home life. He crashed at our houses a lot. He got into college and moved away, and I didn't hear from him for 5 years. I heard from him again when he proposed to his girlfriend, his high school sweetheart. He wanted me to come to the wedding, but he also wanted to hang out before we got dinner, and he talked about how he got a job at an embassy. We kept in touch after that. He got promoted to ambassador's aide, and now he's running a consulate. We are still youngish too. I think he's still got a bright future ahead of him. Couldn't be more proud of my friend.